Welcome to Marvel Age Star Wars. My name is Sean, and I'm here with Brooks.
Took him a minute to remember because it's been a minute
Trying
since we.
to orient to what show we're doing
I
now.
know because
We
we're
haven't
on
done
like
this one in a while.
a couple shows now.
Yeah, it's fun
Um,
though. I'm enjoying them, but yeah, I do like the Marvel Age, and we're moving on. What issue are we on now?
28,
28,
the big
and we get to
28.
see. This is an exciting one because we get to see the introduction. Now, we didn't do the adaptation of the movie in comics, so we skipped this because the actual introduction of Jabba happens in the original comic
Right,
books.
because that was a
Because
scene they deleted from the movie, but it
but it's
made it into the
included
comic.
in the adaptation. So, but this is the first like expanded story that uses that interpretation of the character in the comic book series. So if you haven't seen it, that guy is this guy.
Cool.
Yeah, I love
Get
it
closer.
because
Get closer with that.
we'll try. I don't know. I don't want to mess up all the.
Oh, I haven't seen him. I didn't know they made him. So he's a legit character now.
He's a legit character. In the original movie, he was just called Walrus because he was a background player. And what they did was when Howard Chaykin wanted an artistic reference to use for Jabba the Hut, they gave him all these still photos from the movie, and he just picked this background character from the cantina scene, and they were like, sure. But
Originally, it was like
in
a
the scene,
bald dude, wasn't it? With like a big fur coat or something.
well, if yeah, the way when they shot it with a stand-in actor, and he did have a costume, but it was just like a placeholder. The whole thing was a placeholder, and they thought they would replace him with a sort of stop motion character that would
Oh,
be
I didn't
vaguely
know that.
humanoid. And they never got around to that for budgetary reasons, so they just cut the Jabba scene, which is why they edited the Greedo scene with much to have much of the same dialogue, which
Mm-hmm.
is why it's so weird in the special edition that they include both scenes. So he literally, like in the special edition, which is different from the way it was originally conceived, Han sits down with Greedo, and Greedo says, you know, Jabba's really mad at you, and if you're not careful, Jabba will put a bounty on your head across the whole galaxy. And you drop the shipment. Han's like, well, you know, we all drop shipments sometimes and blah, blah, blah. And like, I'm just telling you, Jabba's really mad. And then he shoots Greedo. And then he walks into the very next scene that he's in. And Jabba's there. And he's like, you know, Han, you dropped that shipment. He's like, well, we all drop shipments sometimes. Like, I'll put a bounty on your head so big, blah, blah, blah. And it's the exact same scene because the Greedo scene had
He
been
fried
rewritten.
poor Greedo.
Well, he added that in,
I
but
know.
but the rest of the dialogue of them saying the same thing, the Greedo scene had gotten beefed up to include the Jabba dialogue. But when they decided to do the special edition, they kept all the dialogue from both scenes. So they
Yeah.
basically say the exact same thing in consecutive scenes for Han. Han's like, man, it's hard to get off this planet. Everyone starts asking me about that drop shipment
How
from
many
her.
times I have to have this
Like,
conversation
come
today?
on, we all have to drop shipments every now and then. Am I right? And then Jabba's like, I'll put a price on your head. It's like, I thought Greedo just told me you already had. Why
Say,
are we even
I know,
talking
I've
about
heard
this?
this.
There's already a price on my head. I thought.
That scene is dumb. I hate when he steps on his tail. And I really, really hate when Boba Fett just looks at the camera,
He just
just as
comes
like,
out
look, I'm here.
because that's
Mm-hmm.
obviously an addition.
Yeah, I
That
hate
one
it.
I don't mind as much because it's just silly fan service. And I don't mind the stepping on the tail because they were trying to sort of skirt
I know they were trying
around
to
the
get around it,
scene.
but it was ridiculous because, like,
But
you wouldn't step on Jabba's tail and get away with
the
it.
Jabba scene doesn't work
No.
because you just delivered all of that same exposition. If you're going to do the Jabba scene in the special edition, you should have gone back, and it would have been so easy because everything Greedo says is just subtitles.
And
You
just
could
cut.
say he's saying anything. Yeah, you could
People would
cut it,
freak out if
but
they
could
changed that
literally
scene, though.
people freaked out anyway because
Well,
it
I
was
know,
dumb.
but they thought people wouldn't freak out anyway, but people would totally
I don't
freak
think
out if they
I don't think
changed
people
what he's
freaking
saying.
out was a concern that there's a call, or they wouldn't have done the
Maybe.
Greedo firing first moment. But if you're going to include both of those scenes, then you need to have the Greedo dialogue have something else to say than what we're about to hear word for word from Jabba.
At any rate, so
Anyway,
Jabba's in this issue, so that's cool.
but the point is,
Was he
in the
portrayed like
comics,
this in the
they
comic?
took this character from the background in the cantina, and they used him as the reference to draw Jabba in the
And the
comics.
adaptation.
Yeah,
Oh, neat.
and in the issue we're about to see, this
Cool.
character's name now is Mosep Benede. But I bought that figure though just because I thought it was exciting that the comic book Jabba had an action figure.
Yeah, man. Let's let me hop into this thing here. You know what I miss? I
No,
miss you. I miss comic covers that have text on them, like word
that
balloons.
dialogue, yeah,
Yeah,
it is fun where they're
you
just
don't
talking to each other, blasting.
never see that anymore. Back then, it was like, this is what's happening in this book. You want to read it. Now it's just like some half naked girl airbrushed, you know.
Or here's some awesome art that's not in the comic because it's a different artist and stuff.
Keep blasting,
Oh,
Chewie. Those things will eat through the Falcon for dinner and us for dessert. This looks fun.
this is this
They're
is
getting
like that
attacked by
man.
bugs.
Remember that Mandalorian where they were in the ice
Yeah,
cave?
I
And all?
wonder
It's
if they got,
exactly like that.
except those were horrifying spiders, giant
Cavern of
spiders,
the Crawling Death. Well, these are scorpion
scorpion
things.
looking things.
That's
Yeah, they're
something.
scary. I would hate for these things to be crawling on me.
Chewie's looking pretty awesome in that. Just kind of laid back
Man,
shooting.
they've got the golden guns again. We've seen that before. Isn't that
I
interesting?
like them. I like the Golden Guns.
Yeah, it's like a.
I just watched a comic Trokes about that top left like image that they used to do for Marvel all the time, and then they finally phased it out.
Which one? Luke up there?
Well, I mean, all Marvel comics used to have
Oh,
that
just having
like a
that
thing.
picture up
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
I like that. I missed that
When did
as a
that in the
format.
90s, I guess, when
Yeah,
they got rid of that?
yeah. Basically, when everything went away from newsstand, because that's why it was there originally, is because if you clipped a bunch of books together, you could see from the top left corner who was in
Yeah,
the book.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, it was clever. Steve Ditko came up with that, according to Comic Troops.
Well, good for you, Ditko. Smart thinking. Too bad you creased all those books looking flipping through them like that. Spine ticks.
I couldn't handle what the newsstands did.
All right. So what do you think? This cover looks cool. I'm digging it.
I'm enjoying it.
A lot going on, but we'll see.
It's the greatest space fantasy of all.
Yeah, I do miss that too. How they used to have this huge Marvel comics, and then a little thing here, then another
Just
thing here, and then
ridiculous
another thing down
hyperbole on
here.
everything. Yeah,
It was very,
everything with the exclamation points.
it's crowded.
Even everything they say is always exclamation points.
And why not?
If I'm marketing to little kids, I would use exclamation points. So this episode is actually called "Whatever Happened to Jabba the Hut."
Yeah, that's a good question. We got 28 months. Well, I get not that long since the adaptation, 22 months, 2 years since the adaptation, and we finally get to hear about him.
It's a fun sort of loose hanging thread because they mentioned Jabba in the first movie. We know that's a big part of Han's backstory, but we don't see Jabba, and we don't really see, like I said, in the adaptation we do because he was in the original script.
That's true.
So
They
we
don't
actually
know.
do see Jabba in the early issues of the comic. But
So
other than
all
that,
the
we don't
people
know.
that have seen the movie at this point know is that Greedo said something about Jabba. That's it.
Yeah, and if they've read the comic too, then they've seen
Oh
the
yeah.
comics version of Jabba. But yeah, we're still like, well, that's like a big hanging thread in Han's arc is that he owes all this money to
And
Jabba
I'm
the Hutt.
glad we're back to Han. I mean, I love Luke and
Yeah,
Leia,
it's
but
fun.
Han's my favorite because he's just a
Well,
normal guy with a blaster. He's not some, you know,
yeah, I don't prefer
princess
Han
or
over any of the other
knight
characters,
or
but
something.
I think his stories are more fun because obviously Luke was the focus of the trilogy. So whenever they were doing an expanded story, like when they got the Brian Daly novels or whatever, we could do like these whole like stories about Han because they didn't rock the foundation of the Star Wars mythology. Like we just assume Han was like, a space pirate, so we can tell space pirate stories about Han and we don't have to worry about that interfering with Luke. We're not even 100% sure that Han's gonna be in the sequel at this point.
Yeah, that's true. You ever watch American Dad?
Yes.
This
sometimes.
looks like his chin. Like, what is this?
I'm
Good
just
grief,
trying to figure out
guys.
what's going on. He's got Columbo eyes in this
Yeah,
one.
he's got the one dead eye. It's
Let
like,
me just ask you one question.
you're freaking me out, man.
If you've
Don't look
got
at me like
Tubi,
that.
go to Tubi and watch all the old Columbos. They're genius.
Oh, I love Columbo. You know, yeah, I know I'm getting old because I do that with my pockets. I'm like patting them, like they got my keys, got my phone. Let's see, you got
I
it.
just don't even know. That's a perfect character. It's a great character.
Whatever happened to Jabba the Hutt? Answer: he is alive and well. Good to hear. And trying to
Yeah.
kill Han Solo on an
Whoa.
obscure planet called Orlean.
I take it you and your hired clowns are rejecting our latest offer, Jabba.
Let me make this bigger.
Next time, just a simple no will do. Just boom! Like how they're like shooting all around him. Like, hey, yeah, ba ba ba.
This might be too big. The art is starting to look weird.
That is weird. This may not be a high enough res.
Yeah. A week in the this is still
Week
Han
in the
talking.
rain hasn't done a thing for Jabba's disposition. Wait till he finds out this is Orleans' dry season.
They've been
Break it.
fighting Jabba for a week.
Yeah, they just stuck on like a freaking asteroid, obviously not being able to fix the ship because Chewie is holding it up by himself for some reason.
Yikes.
Just forget the repairs and grab your blaster, Chewie. Negotiations just broke down again. You're getting tired of this. Think of the way I feel. The blasted cave has sprung a lot of leaks since we last used it as a hideout. And oh no, that's racist. And you know how bad wet Wookiee fur smells? Look at the face he's giving you right now, and you don't even notice.
It's alienist.
Alienist is what it is. About half as bad as, well, human hair and clothing. Well, maybe I did speak out of turn. Living in this rock pile hasn't done much for my nerves, but right now, I do like that Chewie called him out on that. Here's the company we expected.
I'm just killed two more of these guys. Man, they love this
just
solid green and solid purple aliens.
And
They love these green
guys.
and purple aliens. I wonder if it's
Here he
just
is.
easier to color or something.
Yeah, you got to do the voice.
So
of Jabba.
what should the voice be of Jabba?
I don't know. It's obviously up for artistic interpretation.
Okay. Let's see. How many did we lose this time?
Only Scud, Jabba. But if you just let us attack full force with proton grenades, we could
destroy the Millennium Falcon along with Han Solo and Chewbacca. Can't any of you thugs understand that I'm a businessman? Han has failed to repay a very large debt. Run up while smuggling spice in my service. That justifies his death. But there's no profit in destroying the best spice freighter to ever make the Kessel run. Now when time and the odds are on our side. At least he's hanging out in a ship. He's not like just standing out in the rain for a week.
I guess, and he's just got a desk. He's like, we just do this the old-fashioned way. He used to call this the Dr. Seuss version. Because he looks like a sea otter in a band leader uniform.
Yeah, I guess so.
But it is important. We should
he looks cool.
We should find a photo to post here because it's important to understand that this character design is based directly from a character from the film. Like, this was not something they made up. They used it from a reference from one of the characters in the background of the cantina.
Yeah, I think
when
he
you're
looks
like,
cool.
Where did that come from? That's where it came from. It's canonical. It's just not Jabba.
Now this guy, I'm not sure what this guy is, but this guy looks cool.
Yeah, those guys got Greedo weird fingers. Pointed. Those guys look like Carmine Infantino aliens because they all have weird pointed beak noses and stuff. Or that one guy is sort of a Salvador Dali painting. Nutrient paste for a man used to prime sand lizard steak, 5-year-old spice wine. If we're down to this stuff, our situation is worse than I thought. Blast it!
I like how it's a can. I guess.
Yeah, just a Popeye can.
Yeah.
And he just opened it clearly with a Popeye can opener because it's got those jagged edges. Blast it! A few more rotations of this mud ball, we'll be begging Jabba to blast us so we don't have to starve. How'd I manage to get into this dumb spot?
Oh, cool. We get to see him dump the spice. That's fun. I didn't know that. You know, you'd think I'd never read these, but I've read all these before. It's just been like 15 years. It began with an escape from the great galactic gambling center known as the Wheel, and from the Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Vader. Oh, so this isn't them dumping the spice. I was hoping we'd see how he dumped the load.
Man, the vantage on that Star Destroyer is
confusing,
baffling to the brain.
Yeah, it's non-Euclidean.
Exactly, that rule Yayan. That monster's got us dead in its sight, but it's not firing. I never look a gift miracle in the mouth, Chewie. We're making the jump to hyperspace before someone comes to their senses.
Mm-hmm. But at 0.5 light speed, the trouble started.
She's vibrating like a cantina dancer at a Tatooine moisture festival, Chewie. Gotta drop back to normal space before we fly apart. Honk. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking honk. When those wheel technos threw the Falcon back together after stripping and searching it, they must have left something out. No problem, big buddy. Check the navigational readout. We're not that far from Orlean.
You know, it'd be neat to have a hidden like hideaways and hideouts all over the place. And by a carefully orchestrated series of short hops in and out of warp, the ailing spice freighter is coaxed to its destination.
Just as miserable and uninviting as ever. One of the few places in the mid-systems no one can stand, which makes the perfect place for a couple of shrewd spice smugglers to have an emergency station. Hey, Chewie.
The little cockpit's like pointing inward almost. It's got to work on his Falcon drawings. But as the Falcon touched down and taxied into the mountain cavern that was their old hideaway, neither of the shrewd spice smugglers noticed an addition to the equipment stored inside. Oh, they were tracking them? Who was tracking them?
Big tracking stick in there.
Like, how was Jabba tracking them?
They stuck a Halloween light stick in our ship?
But when did he do that? On the wheel? Like, he had someone do it on the wheel somehow? It doesn't matter.
I love this version of Chewie.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus.
He's missing some teeth. Until...
Visitors arriving on the mud plain, Chewie. Why would anybody... Blast it, you're right. That's the Void Raker, Jabba the Hutt's personal freighter.
Well, Han, my boy, this moment has been dreadfully long coming. I didn't truly expect you'd dare visit this old haunt, but I installed a bug to alert me just in case. Oh, it was in the haunt. I thought it was on the Falcon. I'm so dumb. Since this saves the price of the bounty I've posted, I've ordered my lads to give you a swift, dignified death. The Corellian skipper and his mate countered with a long, desperate siege.
Yeah. We've held out long enough to have the Falcon back in something like flying shape. But the Void Raker's guns can nail us before we even... Chewie, back here, fast!
Uh-oh. Fatoom!
Bow, bow, bow! Pew, pew, pew! I like how Han always shouts, do. No, I haven't gone cave happy, but it'd be better if I weren't imagining things.
If I were imagining things.
Be better if I were imagining things. I spotted this crawling on the food tin I threw away earlier, pal. It's a stone mite. They're the ultimate scavengers. An old timer told me about them. They're a biological weapon developed during the Clone Wars. Their bodies manufacture an acid that enables them to eat through anything. Look what this one did to that tin. And they usually move in swarms. That's rip. Thousands, maybe millions, specially created to devour a planet's mineral resources. They mostly travel through sheer rock, feeding on any veins of ore. Brrr. Right, that scares me too. If our old hideout suddenly sprung some leaks, it might just be infested with the little monsters. Get to the Falcon before it becomes a main course, and you and me the dessert.
That's on the cover, huh?
Mm-hmm.
But as the pair near their ship, Pavoom, Badow!
Jabba's goons are hitting the entrance again. And they're not sparing the proton grenades. I see it, Chewie. The force of those blasts has started a crack in the cavern ceiling. It's traveling back toward the Falcon. Move before the whole works collapses.
Meanwhile, so these are two different guys. Looks like we were right to disobey Jabba and use those grenades. The cave's still standing, and Chewbacca and Solo wouldn't let us get this close unless they were dead.
No, there'd be some traces of their bodies. They've retreated back into the cavern. Stay close to the walls and move in on them.
It's another G.I. Joe.
Yeah, he is a G.I. Joe guy for sure. That's it. Now give us some covering fire. This time we've got them.
Fatal, Pakam!
I heard, Chewie. Jabba's maniacs have brought down the front part of the cavern. We're trapped in this king-size coffin. And look what's pouring at every new crack in the place. Stone mites, a full swarm of them.
This looks kind of cool. I like the way they drew this.
Mm-hmm.
It's also pretty horrifying.
Yeah, I don't like it.
I don't like bugs.
I don't like stone mites. Burn a path through them, Chewie.
Ow!
Just move up the ramp so we can seal off the ship. There'll be time later to complain about how much tiny crawling things give you the creeps. At least I hope there will. Anyway, big buddy. Make sure that we don't carry any of them aboard. Then start the image. Losing it. Then start the engines.
Did you ever have it to lose?
Did you ever have to lose? Don't run them rough.
Let them run rough.
Let them run rough. But hold to a dead hover. With luck, you can shake off some of those little devils before bringing the mountain down on top of us. Meanwhile, I'm going to try to do some fast conversion work before they eat through the hull.
This is kind of predicting the Minox a little bit. It's kind of neat.
It's kind of like the same thing. Yeah, we hide in a cave, and then there's like parasites inside the cave that we have to ward off.
The ship.
Yeah, it is pretty cool.
While on Orleans' rain-lashed mud plain, the Void Raker prepares to depart when...
Jabba, I'm getting something on the scanner. The Falcon's engines, I believe.
Then Solo still survives within that great stone rubble. Those fools only buried themselves. Not him and the Wookiee. What's wrong with this galaxy that a smuggling lord can't buy competent help? It's hard being Jabba. I need a sip. And what's that crazy Corellian up to? There's no way a ship can blast out of that mountain. Not through solid rock, thick enough to withstand an Imperial bombardment. Order out every hand. I mean to settle accounts with Solo once and for all. Mostly loose rock blocking the entrance, Jabba. The laser borer will be through it in seconds. There's something on the scope already. Oh, gruesome.
Takes.
For Star Wars comic, that's pretty gruesome.
Yeah, it just stone mites my ass.
It's one of ours. But what? Stone mites! Back to the ship! Back! Poor stone mites. No one loves them. Back at the Millennium Falcon.
You don't have to convince me, pal. I can tell by the hole sensors. Those little demons are hanging on like Sargonian behemoth ticks.
I love the things they make up on these.
Which means it's last resort time. If I did everything right, our de-icing system should now be drawing power from the main reactor. Full hover, Chewie. Full hover power, Chewie. Let's see how our unwanted guests feel about having their food try them. Having their
Fry
food fry them.
Yes.
It's working. We're generating enough heat. We're generating enough heat through the whole plating to scorch them off. All we have to do is keep it up.
So
This
I
is
guess
a lot like that Mandalorian episode. I wonder if they did kind of draw from this.
Probably not.
Yeah. I mean, they're trapped in a cave with bugs. So I guess anyone could come up with that idea. Well, come on, you big hunk of hair. How about some cheers for your brilliant but modest partner? Quit staring at that scope like it was an engraved invitation to play in the Death Star garbage compactor. Not sure what that means. Hey, let me see that. What? The entire mountain must be honeycombed by those miserable, ever-multiplying stone mites. They're dropping on us faster than we're burning them off. More power, Chewie. We got to feed the de-icers more.
Oh, blah.
The systems can't take it. All my conversion modules are blowing. Shut her down, Chewie, before the whole cabin goes. Blast it. We made Darth Vader and the whole Empire look silly with a ship. How can a bunch of mindless munching insects be the ones to destroy it? Wait a minute. Bump us up to a broader band on this scanner, Chewie. I'm going to do some probing beyond the Falcon. Maybe.
I like this weird, I guess it's dirt.
Where he's all
this
dirty.
cross-hatching.
Yeah. Fire her up again, Chewie. Only this time we won't use the de-icing system.
We go in here next. These are confusing to me, how these are laid out sometimes.
I'm not sure, but I assume that's the next panel.
No, this is. I can tell because they...
All right, never mind. All right. Okay, I'm at the main guns, pal. When I start shooting, take off.
Batoon, bafam. Are they upside down? Or is the... So. I mean, the cockpit glass is here.
The cockpit is just weird.
And in the shattering explosion of flying stone, the Millennium Falcon bursts free of its seemingly inescapable mountain prison.
We did it, big buddy. We did it.
And then Han looks down and his leg is gone. It's a stump because they're inside chewing on him.
Our tiny friends may have caused us a lot of grief, but we couldn't have busted loose without them. Instead of a roof of solid rock above us, the stone mites had reduced that section I blasted to a hollow shell. What do you mean? Why didn't I check the scanner earlier to find that out? Why didn't you? Just be glad the heat of hitting escape velocity is taking those nasty little buggers off permanently. From now on, there's nothing ahead of us but clear sailing and Jabba's Void Raker. I love that. I'm sure everything will be fine. That's
what?
Attitude. I forgot the immediate thing that we were just doing. Activate all shields, Chewie, fast. That greedy bloodsucker has caught us flat-footed.
Harsh words, Han. Particularly since I've almost fatherly feelings about you, my boy. True, I subdued them somewhat down on Orlean, but away from that place's dreary atmosphere, I feel more forgiving As proof, you will note that despite a superior position, I haven't opened fire on you. What's he shooting?
His own ship. I know you've opened fire on something, Jabba. That's a blaster right here.
Oh, he's got bugs in his ship.
You're not having a problem, are you? Let's see. It couldn't be mutiny. Your brand of hired help isn't that intelligent. Now, what would be bad enough to drive you off Orleans without even making certain Chewie and me were dead?
Stone mites, you Corellian conover! One of my doltish crew let them get into a laser borer he brought back into the ship. Now they're destroying everything. I'm the only one left, Han. You've got to take me aboard.
If you're all done bluffing, my pleasure, Jabba. Jet on over to the Falcon.
That's what I've always liked about you, Han, my boy. There isn't a vindictive bone in your body. So he's saving Jabba?
Yeah.
Not sure that's a smart move.
Right, Jabba. You and me don't believe in getting even. Grrr. We like to come out ahead. So, along with the generous offer you no doubt plan to make canceling my debt and the price on our heads, I'm sure you'll include a bonus for our time and trouble. You know, like opening airlocks and the like. But no need to rush, Jabba. You must have at least 2 hours breathing time in that armor. Unless a few stone mites got to it before you abandoned ship.
Jabba the Hutt starts to curse, then shrugs and reluctantly smiles. Mentally, he calculates a likely offer, automatically cuts it in half, elects to wait an hour to make it look good, and begins planning for another day when he'll have the upper hand. But meantime, Darth Vader is also planning, as will be shown next issue in Dark Encounter.
Awesome. I love it.
So
there's so much I love about this particular issue.
And weird and interesting because it kind of breaks canon with what we learn later in Empire.
It broke canon in everything because first of all, we see Jabba way earlier than we'll see him in canon. Second, it seems to actually resolve Han's debt.
Yeah, apparently, unless he somehow gets into debt again, which doesn't make sense.
They'll find a way. If I'm remembering right, they find a way in the comic to sort of put him in Jabba's debt for some other reason. It's sort of like how Han had this big reward at the end of Star Wars, and we're like, how does he have that big reward? And they're like, well, a space pirate steals it from him immediately.
Instantly before he gets off the planet.
That's why he can't pay Jabba. Like, all right, fair enough. So they have all this time to sort of play around it and reset it all. Because obviously we don't see Jabba in the movies till Jedi, but they make reference in Empire to the fact that he still has a bounty on his head. So
they don't mention Jabba, but they do say he's like the bounty hunters I ran into on blah blah blah.
Yeah, which obviously that wouldn't happen if this truce with Jabba were to last.
So. And then Boba Fett's like, he's worth more. He's worth more to me alive, or what? I forget what he said.
Yeah.
So that's kind of neat. It's cool to see Jabba. I enjoyed that.
It's fun. It's super fun because it's such a weird interpretation, and if you don't know where it's coming from, you're like, what are they doing with that? Like I like the partially formed Star Wars universe and just seeing people play in it, where they're like, Jabba's just some dude and they don't know.
I think he looks cool.
It's fun.
I like that.
It's a really fun idea.
I like it better than the bald guy with the fur coat. Looked like Friar Tuck or something.
Originally, the Jabba design was supposed to look sort of like Jabba from Jedi, but he was going to be a humanoid kind of figure. So imagine like a character with that sort of head, but still like a sort of bipedal humanoid dude. That whole business with the actor playing Jabba, that was all going to be replaced with a special effect of some
See, I didn't know that.
They just couldn't do it, so they cut the whole thing out. And then later on, when they thought it'd be fun to add it back in, they're like, well, what do we do? Because we turned Jabba into something completely different now.
They could have changed the dialogue since they could CG over that guy anyway and make
They
him
should have
a
done.
Jabba's like Bib Fortuna or something,
Well, what they
like a
should have
Jabba
done,
representative.
they could have changed the dialogue to anything and should have done, or adjusted the Greedo dialogue, because when they cut Jabba out of the original script, they changed the Greedo scene so that it communicate the same information. So having them both in the movie doesn't make sense because they were never written that way in the original draft. So it's a weird thing to come back and say, this is the way I always meant it. It's like, well, no, none of this is the way you originally meant it. And that's okay. But take stock of what the narrative is at this point. And they just didn't do that. There are a lot of valid criticisms of the special edition over stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Don't even get us started, man. We can go off on some
Yeah,
re-edit some
I'm
things.
old school, so I've been through it and come out the other side, and I'm fine with the whole thing.
Yeah, I
But
mean, there's no point in relitigating it, but
it is still like it's a point of irritation for me when something still goes back to an interview where Lucas is like, "Well, that's the way I always intended." It's like, no, you can do whatever you want, and that's fine. But please do not say this is the way you always intended it, because it isn't. Like we can see
well,
that.
most people haven't read the original scripts and stuff.
Nor should you, but I'm just saying, just say this is the thing I want to do. Don't try to that's what in the day, it doesn't matter now, but in the day, that was what started to make old school Star Wars fans lose their minds a little, because they were getting gaslit into this like, no, it was always this way. No, no, it wasn't. What are you saying? Like, it was always supposed to be like this.
Fake
It was always
news.
supposed to be like this. Actually, it's always been this way. It's like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, now this is the only way it is. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, that's right. It's always this way now.
Yeah.
What are you
You
saying?
you remember this from your childhood.
You remember the entire thing wrong. So that's where people started to lose their minds a little bit. And then you just kind of have to put it in perspective. It's like, sometimes people just say a bunch of shit and don't worry about it. You know what you saw. It's on VHS. You can go back and look at it. Like, he didn't erase your memory. Like, you definitely can go back and see it's not that way. Don't worry about it. Don't let it mess with your interpretation of how reality works. It's not that kind of thing. But it's just narratively, if you're interested in how narrative works, it just sticks with you because it's like, man, that's just sloppy. Like, yeah. And it's still that way in the definitive version of the movie. So
Yeah.
what are
Did
you
they
gonna do?
clean up his stepping on his tail thing somehow?
I mean, they've cleaned up the effects as they go. It
So he
looks
still steps on his tail?
well, of course he does, and it looks better as they clean it up. Like the Greedo stuff looks better as they clean it up. It just never looks right because it just never worked right. It makes no sense for Greedo to just shoot the wall above Han's head and
Yeah, and
miss him.
there's gotta be a way. Yeah, so dumb. Han's head just like teleports to the side.
Yeah, if you're that committed, you should just reshot the scene with
Yeah, or
everything
just
else
re
but
CG
Harrison
like you
Ford.
can now. You can re
Yeah,
CG everything, man.
yeah, you could fix the whole thing. I'm not saying you should, but
Just have
it
Jabba
looks
move out
so
of the way when
weird.
he's walking around behind him, or spin around or something. Stepping on his tail is just dumb.
Yeah, and that's the worst thing. So it just is what it is on that
It is
stuff.
what it is, guys.
I mean,
So,
I
what do
can
you
watch the
guys think?
special editions, and they're fine to me. I can enjoy them for what they are. They don't ruin the movie
Oh
to me.
man, only the Ewok song really messed with me, and
That's
having
sad.
Anakin at the end, the wrong Anakin.
That doesn't bother me nearly as much, but I do have to say I miss the Ewok song
Yeah, I
because the
don't see any
song that they
reason to
have
have taken that out.
is so weak.
This is
Like,
boring. Yeah.
if they had gotten John Williams to write like a really interesting sort of build up to the end, but it is just like a sad kind of pitiful Yanni sounding
Yeah.
kind of song. But what do
Nope,
we
nope.
know? But I think the Ewoks do sound best as
Yeah. Like playing on the stormtrooper.
yeah, yeah, that's all I want. And Lando is just like all right, Lando.
So,
You can replace him with Donald Glover if you need to
oh no,
at this stage.
quit messing with my movies. But yeah, so that to me was the most egregious change.
was the stuff in Jedi, but
Yeah,
it's
Empire
fine
didn't get messed with very much. Empire
because
is
Empire
still
was
mostly
fine as it
fine.
was.
Yeah, Empire is the best one. Even the changes they made weren't necessary, but
They
they weren't
added
very
like
noticeable.
Windows and Cloud City,
Yeah, it looked a
which
little
is
prettier.
okay, but I thought it looked cool the way it was. I really liked the all white halls and stuff. I thought that was neat when I was a kid.
I think the windows were fine. The biggest thing that they did in the original theatrical version was they had a scream when Luke fell down the chasm, which was so weird, and they took it out later. So they realized it's like, why would he scream? He jumped on purpose. That's a stupid thing to
Well,
let
it'd still
himself
be
fall
pretty
down a
scary.
chasm and just be like, ah! You didn't fall, man. Get your
Maybe
shit
he
together,
slipped.
Luke. Yeah, well, that's what it seems like. He didn't slip. He did it on purpose. You can't make it like a heroic sacrifice, and then he's just like,
Maybe he was
ah!
going to jump,
He's like,
but then he
I have
slipped
made
right before he was
this
going to.
decision.
Yeah, I regret this.
Ah! I didn't know what would happen.
Okay, you want to hear a bad Luke
Sure.
dad joke?
All right.
Where did Luke get his robot hand? At the second hand store. Mm.
That's good. That's a good one.
All right. So with that, thanks for watching, guys. Let us know what you think.
Thanks for continuing.
Give us
to
a
watch these
yes. Thanks
videos.
for sticking with us. We're sorry we don't do this much. Go check out our other thing. It's I'm
Watch
waving
the
like
gang. You
a
can watch.
mermaid tail makeup brush that's just sitting on my desk because it's my daughter like plays makeup and she loves mermaids. So I'm sitting here like waving this around like go subscribe and people are
You
like,
don't
what
have
is
to
that?
explain yourself
What are
to
you
me.
doing, dude? What is that thing? It's a makeup brush. Like a
But
mermaid.
yeah.
Shut up.
Well, check out the Watch Along Gang. That's another channel that we have, which
Put
we
a link.
enjoy.
We need to put a link. Will you put a link on there in the description?
I guess it might happen.
So yeah, go check that out.
There's like going to be a lot of time between now and then, so I don't want to commit, but probably.
But that's us and our friend Andrew and some other people, Lynn and some other people.
Yeah, we watch along with old movies or new trailers and just some random stuff.
Yeah, and just react to it. You know how reaction videos work. You've seen YouTube.
And that's kind of. I mean, we still do some TV Ate My Dinner stuff on this channel, but that's between this and Watch Along Gang. That's what we're focusing most of our time on. So I would say,
yeah,
check that channel out as well, and we'll continue to put stuff out on this channel.
Yep, and if we're not doing enough here, it's because we're over there, and we'll try harder to do both. So thanks for watching. Leave us a comment. We like to hear from you. My name is Brooks.
I'm Sean.
And we'll see you later. May the force be with you, Snoop.
Do one of these.
Nice.
Troll the fans.
Like and subscribe.
Snoop.